Now, Steve Feld, a little bit about his background. He is a distinguished Toastmaster, or DTM, and is also a certified business coach, author, professional speaker, and an award-winning business management executive. He is passionate about business growth, efficient operations, and long-term success. He has built, owned, and operated 7 lucrative businesses and has been heavily involved with District 3. Knowing our communication style is critical when speaking to any group of people. Doesn't matter if it's a few or a lot, it could be 20 or 300. Whether you are speaking to an industry association or to a group of your coworkers, knowing the right communication style will help you get your message across much easier. We also need to know how they're going to receive your message. There are 4 main styles of communication, and knowing and understanding them will make you a much more effective presenter. Steve will be covering how to use the 4 communication styles in your presentation and let you know how the Speakers Bureau can help you advance your speaking skills and your speaking goals. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my utmost pleasure to introduce you to today's presenter and distinguished Toastmaster, Steve Feld.
I was in an audience last month listening to a renowned expert giving a presentation on one of her top subjects. 15 minutes into the speech, I had absolutely no clue what in the heck they were talking about. Now, it's not that I didn't understand the words that were spoken, but I had no clue on where she was going to go or where she was going. I didn't understand what in the heck was she talking about related to the title and the subject of her speech. I was completely lost. I looked around the room and it seemed like I wasn't the only one in that predicament. People started getting up and leaving. They were very upset. They came here to listen to an expert and learn something new. But instead, we just got them saying words that never got to the point. It didn't resonate with the audience at all. Now, I'm sure many of you have felt that type of experience or have been in the audience and you're thinking, am I the only one where I don't understand what they're talking about? The speeches, they don't have any defined purpose, and they're just not thinking about the audience in mind when they're creating it. This is where you need to speak to your audience. After my presentation, you can have some ideas, some techniques, and maybe some skills that you can use to accelerate your progress towards power communication. Now, there's 2 major myths about communication that I must dispel. The first myth is that many people believe because they can speak, they can communicate with others. Now, many people have the gift of gab, and they have no problem talking to others on any subject. We all know that person. They believe that they're great communicators. But in reality, the opposite is true. Many people that talk a lot are often the worst communicators. They're even terrible. Some people think that stringing a whole bunch of words together in a breathless fashion makes them an excellent at getting their message understood by everyone that they're communicating with. Let me say this slowly and clearly. The ability to talk is not the same as the ability to communicate. The ability to communicate is the ability to make an impact on someone's thoughts, feelings, and actions of the recipient. Therefore, talking does not equal to communicating. The ability to talk is a basic requirement of all communication. In Star Wars, Episode 1, Jar Jar Binks said, "I speak." Qui-Gon Jinn replied back, "The ability to speak does not make you intelligent." The second myth about effective communication is that people are born with this. Either you have it or you don't. Nothing could be farther from the truth. Communication is a skill that can be learned. It does take some time and practice. And if you're willing to work at it and rapidly improve the quality of every part of your life, watch how that changes. Communication requires a sender and a receiver. The sender thinks of the idea, the image that they want to convey to the receiver. The sender then translates that idea in the images to words, either written, spoken, or through gestures. The receiver then catches the words like a baseball player catching a baseball. The receiver then translates the words into ideas and pictures that represent in order to understand the message that was just sent to them. The receiver then acknowledges receipt of the message back to the sender, and welcome, we have a conversation going back and forth. So we understand, and this makes the communication complete. Probably 99% of communication breakdowns is coming from the sender just not saying what they mean clearly enough so that the receiver, they can't receive the message in its form that it was intended. The breakdown could also be due to the tone of the message that was delivered. Now, your tone must also match the content of what you're communicating. Another breakdown could be your body language. So your body language also must match that message. Here's a little example of what I mean by body language and tone. Hey, how you doing today? Versus, hey, how are you doing today? You see the difference? Same words, different body language, different tone. Your choice of words is very important as well. Even probably more important than your tone of voice, but you're also your body language. I mean, the best communicators are usually the best listeners. Think about the last time you had that great conversation with someone. Who did all the talking? I bet it was you. One of the most vital requirements for effective communication, especially in the important message, is preparation. We all hear this all the time. You need to prepare all the time. Preparation in advance of talking and interacting is the key to really maximizing the effectiveness of your presentation. Next, when communicating, think of WIFM, the great radio station, WIIFM. What's in it for me? The me is the recipient. Think of it from the recipient's point of view. What are their problems and concerns? What is you, as the presenter, want to accomplish to provide them value in your communication? The best communicators do not use a lot of words. They just actually choose their words carefully in advance. If you ever want to check that one out, think of Emancipation Proclamation. Don't sugarcoat your message. As comic Sam Kinison said, say it already. Get to the point. Some of the most effective communicators ask a lot of questions. They will ask questions to illuminate objections and problems. Another item is, well, you really got to put your ego aside and focus all your attention on the other person or the group. Hey, I'm speaking here. Those words have been uttered by George Costanza from Seinfeld when he was orating one of those long stories and he was interrupted by his friend. Now, George, he wasn't the most prolific speaker, but he always got upset when people did not listen to him tell a story. Wonder who else I know about that. Your communication style may or may not be generic. It may be duly large to your personality types. Your communication style will change over time. Your communication style will be changed, well, by you. So what is your communication style? Let's talk about 4 different communication styles. And I'm going to use someone that I know very well and provide you some examples of their communication styles to show you how you need to adjust your communication style to your audience. Now, remember, it's not about you. It's about how you're communicating your message in a form that your audience will receive. So to start off with, my normal speech pattern is rapid. Most of the people I communicate with are type A people, business owners, and they are limited on time and they don't like the fluff. As Ricky Bobby says, I like to go fast. Why do you always say that very slow? I don't get it. Now, scientists have known that people can understand speech at a rate of 400 to 800 words a minute. Wow. So the speech rate is limited by actually the listener. And that's from author Wingfield, a psychology professor at Brandeis University. But it's limited by the speaker. So listen up, Buttercup. In normal conversation, only a small part of the brain is actually being taxed, leaving excess processing power to be used for listening for lurking predators, filtering out background noise, and, well, simply daydreaming. The average rate of speed for an American is about 125 words a minute. An auctioneer does rapid fire of 250 to 400 words per minute. Amazing. Talk about a huge gap between the rate that we can listen to and the rate that we're actually listening at. I did have someone actually analyze how fast I speak a couple years ago for one of my presentations with a subject matter. It was for neophytes. People were brand new in the industry. And I spoke at an average of about 120 words per minute, right around the average speed for Americans. Another presentation was for individuals who are all in the same industry, and I spoke at about 150 words a minute for that one. And then at another one, I performed a keynote presentation where my intention was to entertain the audience, and I got up to about 190 words a minute. It could have been a lot faster, but they kept laughing, and that slowed me down. And then at another presentation, I was hovering almost right at that 300 a word a minute, where the subject matter, it was delivered to a much more advanced audience. It was rapid fire. I got up on stage, turned on that fire hose, and pointed it straight at that audience. Each audience was different. The material was almost the same. And for the record, the presentation where I was speaking at close to 300 words a minute got the best reviews, and the audience was fully engaged. Well, why? Because their brains didn't have time to daydream and to think if they forgot to close the front door when they left the house. They were there. So why a large disparity of speaking styles and speeds? Well, the reason is I had to change up my communication style to match the communication style of the audience. So for the newbies, I had to use a supportive communication style. Now, a supportive communication style is great for that emotional type presentations. It's great to really connect with your audience on an emotional level. I mean, this style is calm, steady, approachable, it's sincere, genteel. It could be thought as, I'm patient, I'm cooperative, I'm sympathetic. It's a very personal and relaxed environment. I mean, active listeners, they're going to ask questions during the presentation, and I am more than happy to stop my presentation and address their question and give it time for some follow-up questions. You're there for your audience. Even an active listener, they're going to be asking questions. Now, if you're patient, present, and willing to share with that audience everything you got to offer, that's a great style. And another presentation style for people in the same industry, I adopted and used an analytical communication style. It's precise, exact, analytical, logical, disciplined. My material style was delivered using methodological solving information. The slides and the words I use have been seen, and I would look like I was a perfectionist on how organized and purposeful everything was. The pacing was matching up to a metronome. I mean, minimal interaction with the audience, if, well, any. And for those that you can relate to this statement, it was very Vulcan. The keynote presentation, I had to adapt an initiating communication style. It was sociable, enthusiastic, fun-loving, but yet persuasive. The words I used were easy to follow, and it was spontaneous and fun. The goals for the people was, well, to entertain them and for them to like me. So instead of being seen as like the expert, like in some of the other styles, I was self-assured and motivating. When people yelled from the audience, we engaged in fun dialogue, and they actually became part of my presentation. And then comes my favorite style, direct. This style is decisive, competitive, independent, confident. The material and how I delivered it is very fast-paced, bullet point style, moving a logical order from one subject to the next subject in a very structured manner. The environment is very formal, and the audience was there to receive information without someone blathering on about who knows what. Being that I'm focused, result-oriented, ambitious, goal-oriented, and a driver, it does give my audience the perception that I'm strong-willed and demanding and, well, even impatient. Well, they kind of nailed me on that one. Now, here's a fun fact. Now, you might expect this, and I'm sure you're all going to agree, men use fewer words than women do. But you may be surprised to know that men and women use the exact same number of meaningful words to communicate something important. In other words, sorry, ladies, women use more filler words when they speak than men do. Now, many of you may or may not know of the District 3 Speaker Bureau. Yes, they actually do have one. The District 3 Speaker Bureau is a select group of Toastmasters who are looking to further their speaking outside of Toastmasters in a variety of arenas. The members will learn to reach audiences and be in front of a more diverse audience, gain experience and get unbiased feedback on their presentations while they're trying to advance their speaking careers. Now, organizations contact the Speakers Bureau from outside of Toastmasters, and they want to find a presenter for their events. And only members of the Speakers Bureau are offered these speaking opportunities. Well, why not? So the Speakers Bureau is great for Toastmasters who are in good standing. And if you're looking to gain the tools to become an accredited Toastmaster speaker, if that's your goal, it's quite an accomplishment. Maybe you want to expand your professional speaking career. Maybe you want to improve your presentation skills and speak to groups outside of Toastmasters. Learn how to get on stages for like civic organizations, government, professional organizations. Maybe you like to teach or inspire. And maybe you just want to learn, where to even start? How do I get my speaking career off the ground? So some of the benefits, well, we're going to work on improving professional speaking skills so you can address non-Toastmaster audiences, get promoted via speaker's profile website and on social media. You're going to have access to videographers and graphic design. And you're going to learn how to sell yourself, fine-tune your message, at these kind of training sessions. We have always a training session every week or every meeting. You're going to gain experience to become an accredited or professional speaker, whatever you like to choose. Gain professional exposure to businesses and community organizations who are seeking out speakers. And why not get access to present in a variety of ways at District 3 events and training sessions, such as this one. Speak in front of a variety of non-Toastmaster audiences gives you gaining credibility in your field of expertise. You can grow your ability to inspire, inform, entertain, whatever your goal is. How do you want to have your audience perceive you? And this year, the Speakers Bureau will have 3 different levels of members, all which depend on the members' speaking goals and presentation abilities. So one of them is called professional speakers. So these are the members that are currently getting paid to speak or looking to gain the tools and needed to become an accredited Toastmaster speaker. The Bureau will also provide quite a bit of training on how to get on more stages, logistics, and so much more. It's great if you're looking to make money from being a presenter, and basically you can create a business out of it. And professional speakers will be offered outside speaking engagements that are requested. So if you're seeking for that coveted Toastmaster accredited speaker role, the Speakers Bureau will assist you in holding you accountable to achieve that Toastmasters qualifications, which is quite a bit. Qualifications are pretty darn tough. You have to complete at least the first 3 levels of any path or equivalent, be an active member in good standing. In other words, you got to be current on your dues and be active in your club. Present in front of the other Speaker Bureau members for 20 minutes with no notes. So this cannot be a Toastmaster presentation, but a new or an existing presentation, but you may be eligible to receive Toastmaster credit for your presentation. A panel of members will provide feedback and complete an evaluation before being a member. Now, the next level is called an experienced speaker. These are members, they might present for free or in-kind gifts, or those members looking to present to like local or national civic organizations, clubs, not Toastmasters, any public or private events. There's a lot of people that do that. They're giving their knowledge and sharing it to help others. The Bureau will actually provide quite a bit of training on this, how to get on stages, logistics, and so much more. And it's great to share that gift as well. So to qualify for this, you have to have completed the first 3 levels of any path or equivalent, be an active member in good standing, present in front of the audience, the members of the Speakers Bureau for at least 10 minutes with no notes. It can be a non-Toastmaster presentation. Like I said, you could be eligible to receive Toastmaster credit for that presentation, so always check out your path. And a panel of members will provide the feedback to complete before becoming a member. And then the third level is what we call the emerging speakers. Now, these are members, they want to learn how to even get on a stage. They want to improve their presentation skills, gain that knowledge from all the other members who have been there, done it. And the Bureau is going to provide quite a bit of training on how to get on stages, the logistics, and so much more. It sounds easy, just getting booked on a stage, but there's a lot more to it. Now, this is a great program if you don't even know where to start to become a paid presenter or you'd like to present to groups for free. So the qualifications for this, you had to complete any path, any level on any path. Hey, that's pretty easy. Be an active member, present in front of the other members for 5 to 7 minutes on why you want to be a Toastmaster or why do you want to be in the Speakers Bureau and what do you want to gain from it from being a member. Think of it like an icebreaker, but for Speakers Bureau. So you're taking it up a little different. And you've got to think, this audience is now, they are Toastmasters, but you're taking it kind of that out of that element. So you're making some changes. Attend other presentations, support the other members in the Speakers Bureau, gain the knowledge from them so you can achieve your goals. And then all active members of the Speakers Bureau, they're going to have a multitude of speaking opportunities. So we have the monthly PQD training, the TLI conference, so many other D3 events, the club growth director training. What about outside speaking requests? And for those of you who don't know, we're also going to get you set up and coordinate it so you can be on the District 3 podcast channel. You know what that does for you? It gives you social credibility. Besides that, now you get to highlight, showcase your talents as well on a podcast, and you can repurpose that to help you get on stages and so much more. Our meetings are pretty intense, I should say, I guess. We track an individual speaking goals. So whatever your goals are, we want to help you achieve your goals and then have others around you help you learn, and you can learn from them and be motivated by them. I mean, this piece is very critical, especially if you're trying to be accredited. You're going to need some support. So the tools, what do you have in place as a professional or experienced speaker? One sheet, speaker reels, marketing, intake forms, presentations, and so much more. You got to build that toolbox up. And then we're going to have an education piece. So it's teaching the members how to get on stage, logistics, crafting a non-Toastmasters presentation, and so much more. And then we're going to have spotlights. So this is time to practice those longer presentations that are constructed differently than a 5 to 7 minute club presentation. Now, this is a great testing ground for those longer outside presentations. And it's not a place for you to practice your club speech, but we're talking full-on presentations. If you're going to go to an organization, practice a portion of it. And then social media and proofing. So learn how to implement the tools needed for social media and proofing to build your speaking practice. build a reference list. And all members are expected to try to help promote each other, expanding everyone's speaking reach. It's not only going to help you, it's going to help the other members, and watch how everyone grows faster. So you might be thinking, great, how do I be a member? Here's a couple things. Must pass the audition. No notes on it. Receive an overall rating of 80% or higher from the evaluators. Meetings are held twice a month, second and fourth Wednesday of every month from 6:30 to 8:30. And members to attend, you have to be in good standing. You have to attend at least 75% of all the meetings. Now, if you're presenting outside of Toastmasters, believe it or not, that counts as being in attendance because many of us do get speaking engagements on the nights of the meetings. Dress and appearance, we always say if you're presenting, your attire should reflect the nature of your presentation to the participants that you're presenting to. I have some great horror stories about that where I've come in a nice suit and tie and I was speaking to a bunch of contractors who were all in jeans and t-shirts. Didn't fit the audience. So everyone must complete an application and a media release form. You can find the application on the Speakers Bureau webpage on District 3, which we'll be giving you here in a moment. You must submit a professional headshot and bio. And you've got to create a few short videos so we can post those on the District 3 social media channels. This is way you can use these materials for your social proof as well. And then members diligent in replying back to speaking opportunities. They come fast and furious when they do. When a group contacts the Speakers Bureau, they want an answer fast because they are looking for a speaker. So we expect our members to reply fast as well. We do ask no notes in the presentation. This is trying to develop you and bring you up to a little higher level than it being at a club level. So to apply, just go to the Arizona Toastmaster website in the Speaker Bureau section. And you can also attend a meeting to see if it's the right thing for you. So to recap, the ability to communicate, it's a skill that can be learned. Put your receiver's needs ahead of your own. When sending out your message, presenting, prepare your message. Get to the point. Choose your words carefully. More words are not necessarily better. Concentrate your attention on building trust. Remember with them. Be aware of your tone and body language. Supportive communicators appreciate a calm, steady approach. Earn their trust by providing with plenty of reassurance. When seeking their opinions and ideas, encourage them to express their concerns and allow them to take some time to make that decision. Initiating communicators value interacting with others and sharing those stories. Allow time for socializing at the beginning of the meeting and afterwards. Create a friendly, non-threatening environment. And analyticals. Do you love those facts and figures? I mean, present the information it's very organized and be prepared to answer any questions your audience may have. Now, you need to be patient when they're thinking and processing or trying to ask a question because it's going to go deep. And direct communicators, well, just get to the point quickly and in a succinct manner. So when dealing with these kind of communicators, receivers as well, be specific. Avoid over-explaining or repeating yourself. Focus on solutions. Now, it's important to recognize how effective communication can impact your interactions with others. It can lead to a higher efficiency and good morale in the workplace, increased innovation and creative potential in groups, and satisfactory personal and family relationships. Communication styles are often situational. So be sure to monitor the application and communication style. So being live, I think we all can agree on this. Live, we're getting feedback from the audience. During Zoom, everyone has their cameras off. Are we getting that feedback that we need? And decide if your current style is effective based on the feedback of the outcome. Is your audience resonating with your message? And if necessary, adjust your behavior and adapt new styles to fit the situation, the team, or the person. Keep these things in mind and allow you to get your ideas across. And don't forget to check out the Speakers Bureau meeting on Wednesday nights starting at 6:30 p.m. via Zoom. So now, what is your communication style? Lisa?
Thank you, Steve. That was very informative. I love learning about the 4 speaking styles, but I apologize. I only captured 3. So through my notes, just to recap with you, direct, analytical, supportive, and I lost one.
I keep calling it intuitive. I know it's not right.
That's okay. Intuitive. Got it.
Yeah, because that is definitely not my main style of speaking. Now, whoever has heard Travis Harding speak, he's that intuitive. He's emotional. He connects on that level. He's supportive. So you feel welcomed. And it feels like I always say, it feels like someone's putting a nice warm blanket around you on a cold day. You feel comfy.
That's true. I have had the pleasure of hearing him speak. He is as phenomenal as you, honestly, as far as that goes. And I've learned a lot from both of you as far as to presentation, gestures, what makes sense when it comes to making a presentation work. I'd like to hear from our audience now and find out, does anyone have any questions for Steve regarding communication style and how they can leverage that for their own presentations, whether it's for work or for Toastmasters? Now, while I'm waiting for them to drop that in the chat, one thing that I wondered, because of my permission style, I'm more or less not really directed, obviously, but I have more of a permission-seeking kind of a person. So in communicating with people through an audience, how do you inspire people through your communication? Obviously, I do a lot of gestures and whatnot. Are they too distracting? What advice in that realm could you give?
Yeah, I've always wondered that as well. And I have talked to many people on it, and it's a mixed bag. It depends what you're communicating. I could probably, if you saw me live, you probably think I'm Italian talking with my hands all the time. And I always thought, is that distracting? And then over time, after watching so many other presenters, they're using their gestures with purpose versus talking with your hands, which is completely different. So they were using everything with purpose. And then once I started realizing that, I made sure to use certain gestures in my presentation, and they all had a purpose. Then it wasn't overdoing it or underdoing it. It was part of the whole presentation. It kind of put another wrapping paper on that back package.
Sort of like when you use a pregnant pause to either collect a thought or to make an emphasis point. Mm-hmm. Terrific. That is great. Thank you.
And you just brought up one great thing that was one of my greatest deficiencies or my biggest problems was pausing, because I used to talk fast. So commas are, the way I look at it, periods get in the way. They're road bumps. They're not there to stop. That's not a stop sign. It's a road bump. So pausing is something I'm, still to this day working on it, but also it depends on the type of speech. So if I'm going into my direct speech, which I'm giving tomorrow is a direct type of speech, it is going to be rapid fire for 3 straight hours. Yeah. But they have notes, and I tell them up front, take notes. I will pause at a certain point for you to ask questions. We're not having any questions until that point. And the reason is, there's a lot of information to give out.
That's true. And I find that myself. Now, would you recommend, as a professional speaker, because you've done this a whole lot more than me, this is the level I want to get to in my career, do you recommend using any kind of mnemonic or trigger to try and help you slow down? For example, one of the members in my home club told me, you stand on your heels. Do you know that? And when we were meeting in person, I would literally stand on my heel. I stopped doing that by taking my shoes off or wearing flats. I used to, in another networking group, take off my shoes to physically slow my speech down. Why that worked, I don't know. But it feels a little weird to do as I move into a professional type of presentation where I might be getting paid to do that. So what advice would you have for things of that nature?
Yeah, one thing that someone told me a long time ago, I thought that was the biggest, what in the world, but it worked. for me is I had a giant rubber band on because I always wore suits when I presented. So I had a giant rubber band around my wrist. And when I started talking fast, I did not know this. They caught me. I would actually put my finger in the rubber band. And I never realized it. And they said the reason the rubber band's there is to remind me, and something's going on here telling me to slow down. And then I gave myself a little snap. You can't hear it in the audience. No one even notices it. But that was my trigger. Another thing I always notice is I try to find the person who has a complete opposite communication style than I have that I can see in the front row or something. So if they're that empathetic kind of person who needs to have a connection, not data and facts and analytical, that's who I'm trying to look at. Because if I see their eyes start glazing over, I'm going too fast for them. They can handle the facts and everything. It's not their style, but I can also throw some things into my presentation at that moment to bring them back in. So I just picked that one person because I know more people are that person's style than my style.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense too. Now, one thing as far as communication goes, and guys, I know Steve has a lot of answers. If you have any questions, just drop them in the chat. I swear I'll read them to him. I promise. One thing about communication I've learned, it's not always about what we emote or gesture or speak. Sometimes it's also how we dress. And as we're going back to in person, we live in a very hot, right now, wet and humid environment. What advice would you have for both men and women as we're stepping out? Should we always dress to the nines, as the phrase used to be told in days gone by, or can we get away with business casual? And what is acceptable in both categories for business casual, if that's the go-to?
Yeah, like I mentioned, I went to a contractor conference, and I'm comfortable in a coat and tie. It doesn't think I'm putting on a monkey suit or anything. I'm comfortable. And I got so used to that because that was my style. And then when I walk on stage, it was like everyone's in jeans and t-shirts, and you could see dirt and paint and everything else because that's what they own. And I looked at the facilitator, and the facilitator's going, I should have told you no coat and tie. And I was like, well, I'm the fish out of water. So that presentation, no matter how great it was, it wouldn't resonate with the crowd because I was not in their element. It did not resonate with them. So I say you have to dress to your audience. So I went and spoke to a group of CPAs. So CPAs are usually anti-tie, but they're suits. So I just made sure suit, no tie. I looked like I could have been part of them. Now it resonated with them. So yes, dress to appropriate to your crowd so it resonates. But then again, if you're up there giving, say, a funny keynote and the crowd's all in suit and tie, but that won't match your presentation, then dress to the presentation to really, exemplify that to the audience. They'll find it as a kick. And I've done that, dressed a little goofy. Everyone's in coat and tie having a nice dinner. And here I am, the goofy guy, but I was there to entertain them and make them laugh, not to deliver content.
Gotcha. So you have to know what your purpose is as well.
Yeah.
As we go back to doing things in person, I'm glad to say that speakers are going back in person too. Is that information then that we can get or glean from the meeting professional that should be setting up the event? There has to be some contact person, I would imagine, that we would go to and say, what kind of audience is this? So if I show up in pantyhose and high heels and everybody else is in jeans, I'm going to feel silly. Mm-hmm. Who would we contact, or where would we start that conversation?
Yeah, I use what's called an intake form, and mine's about 4 pages. So when I have whoever my contact is at the event, like say an association, we go through everything. What is the room? How is it being set up? Theater style? Is it going to be banquet style? What is it? I need to know this so I know, because I like to get out in the crowd. So I need to know where are my limitations, what kind of mic, everything. This is kind of things we're going to be going through the speakers bureau. So you need to find out all these things, even everything all the way down to who controls the temperature in the room. It sounds crazy, But that is actually vital. Remember, you're the presenter. They brought you in to share your knowledge, expertise, entertainment. They're there to hear you. You don't come out, hey, welcome everyone, and give them that BS. Come out firing, but you also want to make sure that the room is controlled to deliver everything. Just like how you dress, you want to make sure, are we going to have spotlights? Well, I know not to wear certain colors in a spotlight. It might wash you out. And these are the kind of things. Am I going to be filmed? These are the things you need to find out with that contact person. The reason is where you'll test this out before you actually do your presentation on the stage where you can and cannot walk. And when I mean say can and cannot, you can use the whole stage. But if you go to a certain part of the stage, it's called a dead spot. So you might be outside of a spotlight. And when the camera goes over there, it just looks like there's a figure in the background. There's no you. So you got to find where your live spots and your dead spots are. Same thing with the mic. Can you take the mic out of the stand? And what happens when you do?
In other words, something must have cut off at one point when you did that.
Oh, no. I had that loud squelch. It got everyone down on the ground. And I just sat there and go, guys, microphones and I don't get along. And I handed the microphone to the facilitator. And from my background, I can speak loud, not yell. So I just used no microphone for the rest of the
Oh, my.
Because I was afraid to touch the microphone after that. But the audience, we connected right then and there. That was our connecting point. And once I made a few jokes about it and on me, they all go, you're good.
Because you showed you were human too.
Yeah. I dropped it. And I'm like, oh my God, it's alive. I started playing it up, and then I had to shift to expert mode.
That couldn't have been an easy shift, especially after that happened.
Oh, they were all laughing. I'm like, okay, we got to get serious here. This is why you guys paid me to be here.
Right. That's true. Now that with using that as an example, if a meeting professional or event planner does not provide you all the information, do you then, and I know this is like inside information, so for everybody attending, you can't share this. You have to join Speakers Bureau to find this out. But for this presentation, then do you advise people then to, for lack of a better phrase, chase the event planner or meeting professional, or how often or what kind of time frame would you give them to get you the information? And if they still don't give it to you, do you advise going forward with the presentation?
Yeah, you're going to have to play chase. Very rare that they're actually going to spend the time and get you all the answers. Even when you get all the answers, you show up and everything could have changed. So you always have to have a plan B in your back pocket. I mean, I was on a presentation one time. I already did mine. I was there listening to the others, and I knew some of the other presenters. And one of the other presenters was about ready to go on. They're going, this person's going over. They're over 30 minutes, which is cutting into my time. And I'm like, are they going to give you 30 minutes on your back end? They're like, no. So what happened was the facilitator said, you only have 20 minutes to do your hour-long presentation. She goes, okay. She came out and she goes, I'm giving you guys the condensed version. And she rolled right with it, 20 minutes, professional as can be, but she lost 40 minutes of her presentation. She still nailed it.
But you could use that as a marketing ploy. If this is the condensed version, how would I get the full version, or what did I miss? Well, that might be an opportunity to sign up for maybe a mastermind group or something that's facilitated by you as the person that's presenting.
She parlayed it. She actually, since she got burned, so she goes, well, I'm presenting down the road next week at this event. You guys can come in here to the full one.
Nice. That's a great idea.
Yeah, it was that was risky.
Very risky. Now back to communication styles. With the 4 styles of communication and clothing, is there a style or a manner of clothing that would actually conflict with your actual style of presenting?
Yeah, I think if you're trying to be that analytical, direct, and you're up there in jeans and a t-shirt, it might not connect because you're not showing that you were the expert. But if you're in the more informational, the coziness, maybe you're relating to the crowd. So yeah, when I'm speaking to certain groups, it's like, yeah, I always take a look at. I've also learned to bring 2 sets of outfits. And I
That way,
have done a change in a car once. I was like,
oh,
wow, everyone is dressed like way up, like they're going out on the town. So it's like, okay, good. I had the shirt, put on a different tie, a little bit more professional.
awesome. That might be good even for some of us gals to do. We can just go and pack a different suit or a different set of clothes in just in case.
Just in case.
As meetings return then to in person, do you foresee them to be full in person, or do you anticipate that there'll be a mix of hybrid?
Yeah, talking to some organizers, they might go with more of a hybrid, easing into it, because not everyone is comfortable of getting into a room with a whole bunch of people yet. So I think it might go to hybrid. And then I had 2 organizations tell me like, listen, this was a success for us in 2020. We used to have a 5-day event in person, which is a nightmare to put on. It takes a year to put it on. They go, we condensed it down to a 2-day and only industry insiders were the presenters. And guess what? We had a high attendance. And our costs were 1/100th of what it usually is.
Wow.
So we actually made money this time. No hotels, no flights, none of that.
So if that's the case with people then aspiring to become professional speakers, would you anticipate that perhaps speaking fees may be coming down in price? And would you advise people to maybe fluctuate or not fluctuate on that price after they set it?
Yeah, we always say, you stick to your price. They can always pass over you, but there's other ways to monetize your speaking, not just direct pay to speak. There are ways to get on summits. So I always call there's also pay to play stages, which I always tell people it's like, unless you have a certain product and they're allowing you to sell it, you might really want to think twice about it unless you're such a powerful speaker and you hide your call to action within your speech. So it can mask it. But I'll get on like podcasts. They're not going to pay you to be on a podcast. But if your presentation is so good, they're going to allow you to give something away for free. Well, that is like your lead magnet. You can give away your book, your PDF, whatever it is, your little mini course, but then it needs to tie into something that they have to pay to enjoy it. So you can monetize your speaking many different ways.
That's true. And we can learn all about that inside the Speakers Bureau, even as an emerging speaker, because that would be, I imagine, one of the steps we'd have to learn to get to this level.
Oh, yeah. I always joke, I'll get on podcasts, no problem. But then I'm giving away a book. Well, I'm also exchanging that book for their name and their email. Now they're in my drip campaign. They're getting subjected to me as the expert, giving them content, and then looking at my other programs as well. So it's not an immediate, it could be tomorrow or the next day.
Now, for the sake of our audience, because you just brought up a point that I wasn't thinking of, but we're going to do this like an interview. What exactly, and get just as easy as terms as possible, but for our audience, what is a drip campaign?
A drip campaign is, well, kind of like what's going on outside.
It's dripping.
It's dripping. Think of it. So let's say Lisa opts in to get my book. So she puts in her name and her email. She gets an email auto-generated from me mysteriously, no matter what time of the day. Here's your book. We hope you enjoy it. And then maybe say 4 days later, are you enjoying your book? Did you have a chance to download it? And it gives another chance. Maybe 4 days after that, hey, how are you enjoying the book? We'd love your feedback. And then maybe a couple days after that, a week after that, hey, we also having this other program. So now I'm introducing you to other things that are related to you downloading the book. Okay. So it's a constant series of automated emails to an individual to push them to like another program, another service, or to showcase that you're the expert.
Gotcha. That's a fantastic tool. And it sounds like that's more about working smarter, not harder to do it. You're not knocking on someone's door going, hey, read my book. And then a couple of days later, hey, what'd you think of it?
Oh, yeah. It'll save you so much time. I just set up a drip campaign and a landing page last night, and I've done them a few times. So it took me an hour because I had to write the content. But once it's in there, I let the system do its thing. I'm hands off.
And that's based on a template, I would imagine, within that system, correct?
Yeah, I created the landing page and then had it connected to my email campaigns. And then I just created each email, when it's going to go out, what it's going to say, and all the verbiage, and what's my end goal. And then at the end of that sequence, if you will, that campaign, it takes them and throws them into my newsletter area. So they'll always get my newsletters twice a month.
Very cool. And that's still an option too. They can opt out at any time.
Opt out anytime.
Very cool. We're approaching the top of the hour. I think we have learned a lot today. So I just want to make one final reach to our audience. If you have any questions for Steve, please go ahead and drop them in the chat. And Steve, I'm going to ask you for last thoughts on what we can do then to prepare ourselves with our communication style to get to that next level.
Yeah, the big thing is knowing your audience. So at Toastmasters, when we go to our clubs, we're sitting there basically checking off a box, right? Filling a path and filling out those requirements. But you can also take it up a notch, because now you know who your club is. The fun thing about Toastmasters too is go to another club. You don't know their communication style because you know yours. Now you're going to learn and see their reactions, because there's been times where I've gone to another club and they were all dressed very professional. And that's not the way my club dresses. So I knew they're here, they're serious. They're serious business people, or serious in that world, professionals. So guess what? I had to alter my style really quick to match the crowd. That's throw yourself right in the fire. It's not going to hurt. You're going to be fine. You'll come out unscathed. I promise.
I'm imagining that's a little bit easier to do online than it might be, other than just taking an extra pair of clothes and adding weight to that suitcase.
Exactly. Yeah. I didn't have a chance to change anything. I'm at a Toastmaster club, right? It's 6 a.m. I'm just happy they had coffee.
And we can't forget the coffee. So if anybody has any questions or coffee to drop in the chat for Steve, please feel free. He's never not enough coffee.
Never enough.
Thank you. That's a better way of saying that.
There you go.
There you go. And with clarity of speaking as well, again, it goes back to usage of words as well, but also diction, clarity, all the things that we've been learning in Toastmasters, how to get that message across. I would imagine that's helped you in your career.
Yes, I've changed my style quite a bit and use more vibrant words, and I've heard that many times.
What's the difference between active voice? I beg your pardon. I'm sorry, audience. What is the difference between active voice and passive voice, and which would be more preferred in a presentation, whether it's on Zoom or live?
Yeah, I always go active because I'm the expert. I don't want to seem unsure or unwavering, or can I ask your permission? That's too passive for me. It's more like, okay, folks, here's the deal. It's active. We're going to generate a result here. It's going to you can do that no matter what kind of communication style. Moving someone's emotion. If you watch I always say the evangelists, they are masters at moving emotion. They're not presenting facts and figures and data, are they? No, they're shifting emotion. But the way they use their vocal variety, just watch it. Even if you don't believe in them, whatever it is, we're not there to hear their message. It's how they're delivering it, how they use the stage, their gestures. Everything is very methodical. It's thought out in advance because they're moving your emotion. And moving someone's emotion is greater than me giving you a whole bunch of facts and figures and you loving me for it.
Although depending upon your audience, if you're giving facts and figures, that could move the emotion of the audience.
Yeah. If I'm talking to accountants, they love those facts and figures.
That's true. Gotta love the number guys.
Yeah. I give a presentation about business plans. They want facts. They don't want fluff. They don't want emotion. It's fact. Does that number go here or there? End of story. It's not up for discussion.
Terrific. Well, Steve, I've enjoyed our presentation today. I don't see any other questions in the chat, so I think we'll let everyone leave early give you back 5 minutes of your hour today. Thank you so much for being here today, folks, and sitting down with Steve for a one-on-one of how we can improve our communication by understanding our communication styles. Steve, it's been a pleasure today. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me. I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your day.